Great. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here. We have a very packed session ahead for the next hour. We are joined by Sai and Kriti. Sai is the founder and CEO of Thicket Tales, which is a nature-based education initiative. And Kirti works as a climate literacy champion and builds bold programs that empower people to understand and act on the climate crisis. So thank you so much for being here. I'll just quickly set the agenda for the next hour and then hand it over to Sai and Kriti. So we'll do a quick conversation, get to know their work better, how they think about impact, how they think about the gaps in climate education, etc. Then the second half of the hour, we would like both Sai and Kriti will take you through an exercise, make it a little more interactive, focusing on increasing tree cover and what you can take away as actionable insights and do something in your own communities. So that's the brief agenda for the next hour. In the middle, hopefully, if time permits, we would love to take questions from all you guys as well. While we're talking, if you have any questions, please pop them in the chat, and I'll get to them if we have the time. So let's start with Sai. So welcome, thank you again for doing this. So Sai, now nature-based education thrives on slowness and presence and actually being aware of your surroundings. How do you scale thicket tales without losing the thing that actually makes it work?
Awesome. Thank you so much for this wonderful question. I'm Sai Devi. I run this nature based educational organization based in India. We have been helping students to visualize their science and social science concepts from the books come alive by connecting them to the backyard nature itself. So, nature has never been a pristine forest that is far, far away from your homes, schools, or the cities that or the villages that we live in, with the sole aspect that once you're able to connect to the nature and also see your academics come alive in your backyard, you'll be able to solve for the backyard problems. It could be climate, it could be civic, is the entire vision of our organization. So over 6 years of working in different stakeholders in education as a system, we have started working with students, then we went on to hire ecologists and researchers who could then be our facilitators. So right now we are thinking about the entire scale is a tricky topic, but something that none of us can not do it. So we have started working with teachers, and over the 6 years of working in this industry, we have figured out that teachers are the most wonderful persona of people who would go lengths for their students, but the system also has a lot of restriction for them to teach in particular way. So right now we are designing programs and workshops for teachers so that they could be facilitators and co-learners, so they can have nature connect experiences, and then workshops and toolkits with the students. So our scale is looking a lot to do with teachers itself, so they are able to pause with the students, they're able to connect better with the students, they get to know about their students better, and while they're doing it, they're also having a good climate and nature programs. So that's been that's been our journey.
Interesting. So, do you? I mean, before I get move on, do you face? So, do you have to deal with the education system as a whole, or how do you have to go like individually approaching schools? How does that process look like?
Yeah, so till now, one of the biggest gap that we have found itself is that education as a system has been telling our students are not losing interest in the studies itself, while climate as a system has been telling, oh, our students are not connected to the problem. But when we digged deeper, research, spoke to a lot of school leaders, essentially schools want them to learn better, and all of the rest of the climate people want students to become change makers. So if we are able to connect both of this world, have nature become a teacher, and have an experiential way of learning through nature, it solves for both of the industries and the world. And that's exactly how we have worked. So right now we work with schools, teachers, and the students, so it is handholding the entire system, and there's no way that you could work without that. So our entry point into schools have been a lot easier, because it's also solving for both the systems.
Great, understood. So taking more of like a systemic approach. Interesting. Thank you. So, welcome, Kriti. Please tell the audience a little bit more about your journey and your work with climate education. Also, the question for you, I mean, so climate information is everywhere. We're seeing the real world effects. How do you design a climate education program that doesn't leave people feeling guilty or overwhelmed or paralyzed? How do you move them to action?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So let me start off by giving you a little bit of background on, what I do, what my organization works on, and then I'll talk about how we design our programs to avoid having people leave with overwhelm and guilt, because that's tricky. Um, Hi everyone, my name is Kriti Murthy. I'm based just out of Toronto in Canada, and I run an organization called Climate Literacy Initiative. We're very new, we incorporated last year. Um, and what we do is climate literacy. We deliver workshops in schools and in communities in the greater Toronto area that's focused on action. And the way this organization came about is, I took the Terra course a couple of years ago, and that's where I came across the climate fresk. And I don't know if I have heard of the climate fresk, but it's game based education really on climate science, and also what kind of actions you can take in your own life. So that's how this started. But over time, we realized that we needed to do more within each climate fresk. Eventually, the Toronto District School Board, which is the largest school board in Canada and I think the fourth largest in North America, they approached us and said, hey, partner with us. We need to bring this to our students, because at this point, our teachers are clearly overworked. We cannot expect them to learn about the climate crisis and then deliver it in bite-sized pieces for children to understand and act upon, right? And so that's kind of how Climate Literacy Initiative started. It started with a real need that the school board came to us with and said, can you help us fill this? And from there, we kind of started expanding to the community in Toronto as well. And this year, we're particularly focusing on youth. And when I say youth, I mean ages 15 to 30, and developing a program which is like a train the trainer program. So we can build capacity for community led climate education or climate literacy, and also kind of help them reap the core benefits of like a leadership program like that. So that's the work that we do. Now, when we talk about climate education programs, overwhelm and guilt, I feel like one of the problems is that climate information is everywhere. It's everywhere. It's literally everywhere with no real structure, right? And a lot of the times you're hearing how bad, how urgent, and how large this crisis is. And unfortunately, that's what a lot of climate education programs start off with as well. I mean, even as I train climate facilitators, I've been through this pipeline myself. I've noticed that most people who enter this field are so earnest and intense, and they want to kind of focus on the science, the scale, the urgency, the intensity. And unfortunately, that does not lead to action. I mean, anyone who's tried to build a new habit, lose weight, quit smoking, you know that knowing is not the same as doing. Right. And so that's the gap we try to fill with our programs. We don't say, okay, do our participants understand this crisis? We walk in saying, okay, do our participants understand where they fit into this transition. Do they know what levers they have, and do they know how they can leverage whatever they already have, their circles of sphere control and circles of influence? Do they know how to leverage these to create a difference in the transition? And so I think that's kind of where our work is different. And there's another layer to this, which is, you cannot be top down talking to people, right? You can't have a climate scientist who comes in and says, I know everything and I will tell you how it's done. Our facilitators, our volunteers are all regular people, right? They come from different walks of life. There's retirees, there's students, there's moms, dads, uncles, aunts, like people who care about this just transition. And we try to keep things very, very local. It's really hard to talk about climate action at a global scale and then expect people to go out there and do something. So we're hyper local in Toronto. That's my long-winded answer, Himangi.
No, that's very important. Solve the issues that you can, rather than going for good shots, or rather than chasing things that you can't probably figure out. That's interesting. Now, for both of you, let's talk about impact and how do you measure impact. So, like, how do you know that your work is working if progress is, intangible, like changing the way people belong to their ecosystems, or the way people think about uh, the climate around them? How do you measure that? I mean, either of you can take it.
Okay, I can go then. Because we run a flagship program, we run multiple programs that runs throughout the academic year, and we also do long-term project inside schools. We do have anecdotal evidences of student conversation and stories that we have documented. That's really cute and powerful. When students go out there to document, say, biodiversity, that's the first time they have identified, say, vertebrate invertebrate, but they're also saying, oh, if there are 18 vertebrates in one single tree, which means trees are also habitat, they are also homes, which means they are also very important. So we have been documenting all anecdotal stories throughout, but we also have frameworks that tells what is happening to the knowledge level on these concepts that students have visualized through our curriculum. So we do employ a worksheet pre and post for every episode to see if the knowledge is going up or not. We also measure their skills on how are they able to collaborate to solve a problem. Our students also take problems ranging from, say, public transport to waste. So we also have frameworks to see what is happening to their collaboration, leadership skill, and so that the problems are also solved. And thirdly, we have also made a nature stewardship framework again, because I run a team that is led by researchers. So we also see what is happening to the nature connection index, and we also see consumer and conservation behavior throughout the year, because we go multiple time inside the schools. Yeah, so it, so within the time frame that we have with the students, we are able to see what is happening. Of course, this is like a 15-year journey that we hope that students become change makers, but yeah, within a year, this is what we do.
Yeah, I think it's super challenging, especially when your job is to plant those seeds in people's minds, like, and then people disperse. How do you figure out if those seeds are growing, right? So I think there's two aspects I'm thinking of. One is there's no real clear way, right? And so that's why I feel like most people who are, especially like in community-led education, focus on things like number of workshops delivered and number of participants who came through. And I think we have to be really, really careful using those metrics, because what you measure is what you manage, right? And then you might end up optimizing for scale of workshops versus like any real impact that they're having. Um, for us, like an additional uh, challenge is that many of these are one point contacts, like especially like when we go into the schools in Toronto, they have very, very strict guardrails around how often you can go back, whether you can contact the students or the teachers directly after. So it's literally, I mean, impossible for us to ensure that we can do a follow up 6 months later, right? All we can do is send out a survey and hope that the teachers have the time to ask their students to fill it up. And so metrics collection is a constant challenge for us. So how do you keep going meanwhile, right? How do you know things are working? I think for us, the signals that we get from people. So participants who attend one of our workshops, if they come back to us and say, hey, I want to volunteer, hey, I want to train to be a facilitator, or they come back and invite us to other events, like these are signals that we hold on to very dearly, because this is what is telling us that something's working. At the same time, I think we have to be really comfortable with the fact that many people will never get back to us. People learn and like incorporate things into their lifestyles at different speeds, much like in education in schools, right? People learn and act at different points in their life. And there are some things that you just will never know if it worked or not. So you just focus on the signals that you're getting and you keep doing what you're doing. But yeah, it's hard, especially when your funders want to see progress through numbers. It's kind of hard to put that together.
Right. I mean, it's hard, but it's a system that's constantly evolving, right? Like the students that you're interact with. So that's interesting. Let's come to what's missing. So if you could highlight the biggest gap in how climate education is being approached globally in schools, in communities, what would that gap be?
I can take this. I can take this one. Um, Again, I said this. I think for the first question also is that knowing is not the same as doing, and I feel like the biggest gap is that there aren't enough programs that help people bridge that gap. Sure, I know the scale, it's so big, but I also know that one of the ways I can do this is to get a heat pump, but maybe I don't have $7,000 to spend right now. So I can't do anything, right? So there's not enough thought, I think, or effort being put towards helping people, meeting people where they are, and helping them go out into the world and take action. I think people are struggling to find their agency in many cases, and if the program is not focused on finding that agency, it's really hard to see sustained action. Another thing I think is, and I'm seeing this with the city of Toronto, there's so much support for climate education programs, and there are so many pathways for people to step out of a program like ours and take action as part of other groups. There's many city funded groups, there's many grants, and I feel like that makes a real difference as well, knowing that there is like this giant community, this big effort that's helping everyone kind of transition from the world that we live in now. So two things that are a big gap.
That's so beautiful. Actually, I want to build on what Kriti has told. Um, Perfectly, we need agency. So we have gone one step deeper into how do we not even call anything to do with climate or literacy or connection as an extracurricular activity that the school should be doing. It should be part of the curriculum itself. So we took a year and a half to figure out what are those concepts that is already given in the academics book recommended by our government that could be visualized by students from their backyard. So the whole gap is that the academics is also abstract, and what we are speaking about climate is also abstract. So it becomes really difficult for students to visualize both of the things. So if there is a way that we could design a program which is helping students even concretize their subjects and concretize the action, then it somehow sticks on to the schooling as a system. Unlike Toronto, India does not have a large community that is helping students to do change making. There's a lot of voices recently, but still the finances, the ecosystem is very, very, very difficult. So when you become part of their curriculum activity, when school sees value in it, we have seen school leaders push on to their teachers, and then and when there is a lot of immersive experiences for students to go, say, outdoor experiences, or to even look at both the biotic and abiotic and geography concepts and social science concepts in fun way, the stickiness is really, really high.
Great. I mean, what I'm getting is like inclusion, access. Uh, these are the main gaps that we do need to still address on how these programs are built. Great. Now, given that we are almost at the halfway mark, let's jump into the exercise. Sai, I think we'll be starting with you.
Awesome. So Kriti and me have decided that we'll explore a bit about trees, and we are going to have next half an hour divided into two sections. I am going to be using a framework called hyperlocalization, which has helped beautifully, magically inside our classrooms with our nieces and young children, about how do you make any concepts that could be a conversational topic with young adults. Post which I'll pass it on to Kriti, and she'll share her levers of agency and change making. Uh, yeah, so with that, I'll get started with little introduction. So, hyperlocalization is one of the principles that we have figured out in. Hope my screen is visible. Is my screen visible?
Yes.
Yeah. So hyperlocalization is one of the principles that we have been using inside our classroom to bring in the concepts that students can relate to. And we'll not be going through the entire exercise. We are just picking on the first three steps. The first step is conversation. Conversation is one of the very important and a fun hook that you all can do with your group of students or with nieces or your own children, is that it breaks the hierarchy. You're no longer the leader of the group. It's also inviting everybody to be co-learners. And importantly use a lot of funny prompts and conversation, so all of us can arrive at that concept together. From there we go on to linkage is something that has helped us literally take those concepts that can be seen from their backyard. We use maps or multimedia. We have used even research journal, published journals and articles, where students can see how are these concepts coming alive in their own streets or their parks or in the cities. This is when students, this also has to do a lot with the ability to see relevance of these concepts come alive. So many a times I've heard students telling, anyway I'm going to become an entrepreneur, a YouTuber, how does it matter that I'm learning about weather, I'm learning about acid? Sorry. So one of the important thing that we hear is that how does it matter if there is rainfall, no rainfall? Anyway, I'm going to become a YouTuber. So when we allow them to play around with the concepts, it's very magical. So we have been using different types of linkages. From there we go on to perception building. This is where any learning becomes a personal story. So we also give some kind of prompts and questions for teachers and the students to toggle around, where they're able to use those concepts to something that they can relate to, something that they want to form an opinion on. So at this moment, that concept has become a personal story. So we are going to take an example of tree for next 15 minutes and try to build a lesson plan or activity that you could be doing with your students or nieces or your own children. So the first step is to have a conversation. And let me stop the share. Usually we give couple of prompts so that students can arrive, so that the students and the teachers can arrive at the topic itself. So it could range from something to do with the trees. For example, we can tell, um, on the way to school I see a tree, and then put a situation inside it, and so it could build on to a topic. Let me type it here in the chat box so that you can make your own conversation openers for your own lesson plans. It could be to any age group, but ideally if they are able to, yeah, ideally if they are able to have a conversation and have a discussion with you, then it's good. Let me type couple of prompts so that you can go on to make few more conversation. These are all couple of prompts that you could be using, and this also invites you to have a funnier conversation. We have always seen something where both of you all can share a common story, will add on to the stickiness of the conversation, which is then going to lead you all inside a common topic. So speaking about one particular day where you had one observation, or even in fact comparing a tree to something that you really like, um, so it becomes a shared vision together. You can type on or make a note of yes, yes, yes. Yeah, the situation around the seasons is something that's really wonderful. If they're a little more older and they have observed it, this can go on to next 10 minutes of beautiful conversation. And sometimes teachers also get to have nostalgic um, stories of how they grew up, and so there's a beautiful connection that happens. So you can write your own hook questions, hook conversation that you want to have with your students. I can give you all 30 more seconds. So by this time, all of us would have known that we are going to be working on or exploring about trees itself. So for a quicker, easier 10-minute exercise, we are going to be taking types of trees as trees, shrubs, and herbs, the simplest classification, just for us to practice. And then our next our next to do list is that we also display the images, and instead of giving away the answers, we also ask questions so that students can arrive at the nearest answer that's given in the book, or the nearest answer that you want your students to be understanding. For example, yes, what life forms around the trees that you'd be noticing, is also a great conversation to start with. So for example, if this is what your students are going to be going through: a tree, a shrub, and a herb as a classification, a simpler classification. And you also want certain type of definition or certain type of answer that you want your students to arrive at. And if you could write down all those 4 5 questions so that students are able to arrive at but just seeing at the pictures. It could be about how tall is the tree, how big is it, or what is the shape of it, etc. So and so they are able to arrive at the your desired level of answers. For example, if this if for example if this is what you wanted your students to be arriving at, you could define your own 5 questions so students can arrive at these answers. And it could be anything. You can define your own learning outcomes. For example, if this is what you want your students to arrive at, it could be it could be then layered into number of questions. So by this conversation, two things have happened: that you have broken the hierarchy, allowed children to have conversation and stories to arrive at a topic itself. Then you have shown any form of pictures or multimedia, so that student, through your prompts and questions, students have visualized or students have understood what would the concepts look like. They have basic understanding. Post which is what we use something called linkage, where we have researched about things that could work, that could help students visualize or even see the evidences of how this trees or shrubs or herbs play out in their backyard. So there's this app, a web page called iNaturalist, which is a largest repository of biodiversity, um, both plants and the animals across the globe. And it's such a beautiful learning tool for anybody. We have been using it multiple times before we take them on nature walk. So if I could share my screen again. This is how the web page looks like. I could also copy paste this in the chat box. And you can play around and put your own location out there. And if you are able to type in plants and go for searching, there is both the map version and the grid version. And you could take another, say, 15 minutes to identify what would a tree in your locality look like, what would herb or shrub look like, which means they are able to revise it. And you can also make this as a group activity. And then in the map session, if you're able to divide them into groups and have a little gamified experiences, uh, they'll have fun. The important aspect is that now students are not just able to identify a difference between tree, shrubs, or herbs. They're able to see how does it look like in their backyard. And each of this plants or trees will have a story that a teacher would have observed or the student would have observed. So post which we also take them on an outdoor walk, and there's a lot of giggles out there. So I can give another, say, a minute or so for questions, or also for you all to play around the iNaturalist. Um, if you want me to type another geography in this, we can also figure out that any out of location. Yes, a botanical drawing is also a very nice prompt to start a engaging activity. We do use a couple of books that is available in India for students also to study on trees. Um, and also on observation. And this also could be varied depending on the age group that we are hosting for and their comprehension level. Sometimes when students come from a really urban setting and this is the first time that they are noticing that trees are also living beings, though all their science book tells they are living beings, it's always considered it in many of the conversations. So it could be really, really varied depending on the context. But I really love to have a botanical illustrated, a proper book, and it's such a powerful story that we get to hear. Yeah, Gurgaon. Yeah, I don't think it's changing, but it must be changing once you play around. In the name of, I have just 2 minutes left. um, you can use this link and play around and see what are the beautiful biodiversity around your areas. It just doesn't have trees, it also has about birds and insects, and it's such a solid repository for anybody to start a nature walk. So we also use several types of linkages to connect topics ranging from air, water, to biodiversity, to bring them come alive into their classroom. And the third important step our students go through is perception building, where we use a series of reflective questions um, onto the topics, where we want students to build their own opinions on it. Usually in the botany side, my team also asks questions ranging from if the tree has, say, 8 beings living on them, and what do you think that the shrubs and herbs might be having. And so students will go on to explore and map the biodiversity that is living and using the trees versus shrubs and herbs. And it's always fantastic when children come back telling, I saw a group of ants under the grasses. So apparently not just that big mango tree or big fig tree, even the grasses are really, really important. So the perception building is always curated around the things that we want students to build an opinion on. Yeah, with that, I think I will hand it over to Kriti.
Thank you, Sai. I've made so many bookmarks and and notes from this. This is great. So I have two young children myself, 11 and 6, almost 7. I think this is going to be a really fun thing for us to do together, especially with the app. So thank you for that. I have more things that gave me joy just looking. It's winter here. We're just stepping into spring. Bare trees everywhere. It's just seeing pictures of green leaves on trees just brought so much joy right now. So thank you for that. Cool. So what we did right now was kind of think through how we can have structured conversations around trees and tree cover with the young ones in our lives. And as we transition into like my segment of this workshop, I want to kind of focus on the broader question, I guess, of how individuals, and specifically all of us here on this call, can influence tree cover in our communities. And so, what we're going to do now is maybe just consider roles that we all have in our lives. And I'm sorry, I'm going to share my screen. Just give me 1 second. Let me know if you can see this. No, I'm sharing something else. Hold on. You would think I know how to do this by now. Sorry. 1 second. What do you see now?
Yes, circle
Sorry,
of
do you
control, circle.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that's actually what I wanted to share. So we're good. Okay, so I invite you all to take, let's say, 1 or 2 minutes well, let's say 2 minutes to identify a role that you play. So it could be that of a concerned citizen, or maybe as a teacher or whatever you do for a living. That's number one. So identify a role of yours that you want to focus on. And two, identify an area that you have direct control over or some influence over. And this will be the base of what we're going to work on next. Now, the idea behind the picture I'm sharing on the screen is that all of us have a circle of control, things that we control directly. And then we all have a circle of influence where we can, use different levers to um, influence what's going on around us. And then there's everything external. What the president of a certain strong country is doing, what China is doing, all of that. Like, we're going to leave all of that apart and just focus on a circle of control and circle of influence. So again, two things we're going to do in the next 2 minutes. One is identify a role that you play in your life and something that's within the circle of control or the circle of influence as you play out that role in your life. I'll give you 2 minutes to do that. Any questions, just pop them in the chat. That's good. Okay, your 2 minutes starts now. Just pick any one thing from the circle of control or influence. You only have time for that one thing today, so pick one rule and one thing from either the circle of control or the circle of influence. All right, we got 1 more minute. Amazing. All right. Now that you have potentially identified one area to work on, and feel free to pop it in the chat if you are open to sharing. What we're going to do now is we are going to explore a possible lever for increasing or protecting tree cover in your community, in your neighborhood. So I'm going to pop a few examples of levers in the chat. It's just meant to be a guide. If you can think of other levers that you have, like, feel free to go ahead with it. And just putting in some guides in here. So you could think about initiating new planting efforts. Or you could think about, okay, how can you influence local planning or development decisions? Or how can you organize care for existing trees? Many other things you could do as well. I leave it up to you to pick. So what we're going to do is we're going to take 4 minutes to identify a lever. And you can also think about what do you need to know or to learn, and who do you need to bring on board to use this lever that you have. Okay, so you take 3 to 4 minutes to put this together, and then we'll break out into rooms for us to share what we've come up with each other. Sounds good? Okay, let's take 1 more minute.
Should we move into the breakout rooms?
Yeah, absolutely. So just one thing to note. So we're going to break people out in pairs, and you'll get about 3 to 4 minutes. What I would say is take turns speaking. Let one person talk about their idea for bringing, about systemic change related to tree cover, and the other person listens actively. And I would suggest the feedback that you give could kind of be framed like, okay, one way this idea can be strengthened is da 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 da. And so both people in the breakout room take turns talking to each other and actively listening to each other as well. Does that sound good?
Super.
Okay. Awesome. Hello. So I just left the breakout room to let them talk to each other.
Yeah, I think if all of them are in the rooms,
Yeah,
they'll be back in like 4 minutes. So then you can do the concluding.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. That's good.
Oh, we have 2 minutes, 40 seconds.
Okay. Awesome. I didn't know we could put a timer on this itself. That's cool.
Hi, sorry. No, I
Hi.
had to come back here because the person who was with me wasn't there, or at least the participant. Like I couldn't get a reaction. But there was not a lot of time left because I don't know how to navigate Zoom in my phone. So I just came back to the main session.
No
But
problem. You
thank
did the
you.
right thing.
Okay.
Sorry, I just wanted to make sure that I didn't accidentally like bring you out of the breakout room because I'm learning to navigate this.
No, no, it's okay. It's fine. Don't worry. I thought I'll just wait until like the things are done. But thank you so much for all the insights and ideas. It's really inspiring.
No
Yeah.
problem. Thank you. I'm glad you found it helpful.
Yeah, yeah. I would also like to work, not work necessarily, even though making a career is difficult, but just, raise awareness and talk about the stuff that I'm really passionate about around climate. So
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, okay. I think we lost the host also. I don't know. Okay, all breakout rooms close in 10 seconds, so people will come back.
yeah.
There you are. Welcome back. Is everyone back? Yes, okay. All right, great. Okay. I know that time must have felt really short. You always know that when folks take all the time that's been assigned to them, but hopefully this gave you an idea of what we do in our workshops and also kind of influence you in how you speak about climate action with your people in your lives. Um, this was just like a very quick snapshot. Usually, like in our workshops, we spend like an hour and there's 4 to 7 people around a table talking about the different levers. So there's a lot of back and forth as well. And so I just wanted to give you all a taste of what we do that we've found to be a little successful. Again, metrics are a problem, but by the looks on people's faces, this seems to work better than preaching. So I hope that helps everyone. Thank you for being game to try this out. I'll hand it back to Hemagi.
Thank you so much. Kim, do you have a question for us?
Yes, I have a question, but if you have something to say, I'm happy to just ask at the
Sure.
end.
No, please go ahead.
Oh, so I was wondering, like, Said and Kriti, I really love the work you're doing. I was especially interested in hearing, like when you first started the program, what were some of the concrete first steps you took? Because, it's always really hard to go from 0 to 1. Everyone has this abstract idea that education is important, but not really sure how to go about doing it. Whereas you guys are doing this real program and making a real influence in the world. So I just wanted to hear what your thought process was in the beginning, what kind of decisions you had to make, etc., to put this together.
Sai, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I can go after you.
Okay, sure. So Kim, I think that's a great question, and to be very honest, this thought paralyzed me when I was starting off, right? Because I just didn't know what my next step should be. I can tell you what helped me. I'm a very anxious overthinker, and so if some of this doesn't resonate with you, that's probably a good thing. So I just kept putting one foot in front of the other. I just said yes to any opportunity for uh, climate fresk workshops that came my way. And I think that was really helpful because the climate fresk comes with a community that you have easy access to and that keep motivating and inspiring you, right? So I think that was helpful having a community. And then as I did more, things just opened up, like pathways just opened up. And then it, like, now I'm at a point in my life where I cannot say yes to everything that comes my way. So it was just a very gradual, like, take your chances, put yourself out there and keep moving, kind of thing.
How nice. Oh, I did exactly the opposite. I've told no to everything that did not associate with me or the vision. So when I started, it was pure my selfish nature connect bias that I had growing up. As a childhood, I grew up in one of the oldest mountain ranges in the world in Western Ghats. So I had beautiful childhood. So when I moved to a city, I was like, this is unfair. My children across the world should be having unstructured time with nature. That's it. Then as I went on to create experiences that connected students, I always stayed close to what students and children needed, and then shut that like, I'm not suggesting anybody do it, and shut the noises that came outside of what I was hearing from as a needs from my children. And I'm not recommending, it's very audacious. uh, but again, that worked because once you start growing, your funders will be expecting certain things from you, your collaborators will be expecting certain other things from you, the schools will be expecting certain other things. But aligning to what the needs of the child and what you really are passionate about gives longevity of the work that you're going to be doing. Like I was telling in the breakout room also, that it's a war, and it's fine if you lose one or two battles. It's just the amount of span that uh, time that you're willing to spend.
Thank you so much. And I'm so sorry if I missed this in the beginning, but did you both have prior experience in education to begin with?
So my only qualification is that I grew up in nature and I have no experience of running an educational startup from scratch that uses a place-based pedagogy to help the children visualize their academics. But I do have a brilliant team, and I think because she's a nature mother, she helps you to grow and learn. So yeah.
So, yeah, I don't have any background. I mean, for a very long time, and maybe even now, I'm scared of walking into a room full of teenagers to talk about anything. um, but I guess I just want to do this, and so I'm trying my best.
Yeah, I agree with her. That's more scarier than even pitching to funders. So you have to be cool and set the ground rules and then help them to learn and unlearn. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate your answers.
Great. I know we're a few minutes over. Sai, Kriti, thank you so much for staying over and taking the time. This was very interesting. And yeah, wish you the very best Hope you guys keep growing and thriving.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
everyone
much.
for joining.
Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.